Part of our work that we do as the Commission for Gender Equality, we do oversight visits at different police stations in the 9 provinces. When we arrive at each police station, we have a tool that we use, which is very broad, but at the end of the day, it produces the desired results. We check, for an example, that how many SAPS members are trained on gender-based violence, how many are trained on domestic violence, and we also check in a period of a month, for an example, how many cases of gender-based violence and femicide are they receiving as an individual police stations? Are they having, when we look at the criminal justice system, for an example, are they having acquittals and so on? But you go further as a Commission for Gender Equality, where we check whether each police station has a victim empowerment program, because it's very critical. Remember, it's mandatory to say when a victim arrives at the police station, there must be the issue of privacy, the issue of confidentiality. So the victim empowerment program, the rooms themselves are very critical in making sure that the survivors and the victims of gender-based violence receive the support, the help, and the privacy that they deserve.
Africa borwa kwano re le hlonolo that we have Chapter 9 institutions, which are organizations that were established to protect our constitutional democracy. One of those institutions is the Commission for Gender Equality. Some of the work that the Commission does includes monitoring public and private entities to ensure that they protect gender equality and the rights of all citizens. But what exactly is the mandate of the Commission for Gender Equality, and what kind of work do they do? Today's episode, iarabela potso ena le tse ding tse ngata. Lebitso la ka ke Sipati Thwasa Seoke. Thank you so much for joining us. Dumela hle, if you've just tuned in, this is Gender Space, and we are discussing the CGE's mandate and their role in the compliance of the SAPS and the judicial system as far as GBV cases are concerned. And here to demystify things for us is Commissioner Prabashni, Subrayan-Naidoo, and Legal Officer Nothemba Sonjica. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So good to have you. I get to find out these things with everyone. Please tell us about the mandate and the powers of the CGE and some of the work that the Commission does.
All right, thank you so much. The Commission for Gender Equality is a Chapter 9 institution which is tasked with protecting, promoting, and evaluating gender equality through research, public education, policy development, and legislative measures, and also litigation.
Tell us a little bit more about the Commission's role in monitoring the police stations and the courts, and the work that you have done in this regard.
Part of our role is to oversee the South African police services and the courts insofar as gender-based violence and femicide cases are concerned. Some of the issues that we look into is the number of gender-based violence and femicide cases that is received by a police station. We focus on hotspots, that is police stations which receive the highest number of gender-based violence cases. We look at what is taken to court. We monitor the court cases to look at delays and overall in the gender space insofar as finding voices for the voiceless is concerned.
Sure. Just to come back to the answer that you've just given to me, if an area is known as a hotspot area and the number of the cases that are being reported, for instance, are low, what do you do as the Commission?
We investigate the reasons why there has been low reporting of cases. It could be that public are not aware of what is out there and how they go about reporting their cases. And part of our mandate at the CGE is to educate the public on issues of concern.
Considering what you have said about the mandate of the Commission, it looks, the scope is big, and one would think, there can't just be one department, there must be a number of departments. Are there a number of departments, and what do they focus on?
Yes, we have 3 departments which are the engine of the Commission for Gender Equality. We have the legal department, we have the public education and information unit, we have the research department.
Now, how buaka awareness you are speaking to my area as a person that's in media? Ke radiong me, and what does this look like, especially the part of disseminating information to the public? How do you go out into the public?
Sine Public Education and Information Unit, yona Public Education and Information Unit, ibane outreach programs. Bayahamba baya communities all over provinces. That is where they educate the community about gender-related issues. Issues such as consent, LGBTQIA+ matters, and a range of issues that affect gender inequality. Yes.
It's like the SAPS and the courts are supposed to treat cases in a particular way, particularly those that involve gender-based violence. Tell us a little bit about this.
So one of the tools that we take together with us when we go to oversee police stations and courts, and there's a number of questions that are posed to SAPS and court managers insofar as gender-based violence cases are concerned. Some of the issues that we focus on is victim-friendly rooms where SAPS is concerned. We look at the number of cases that are reported, the number of cases that do not reach prosecution stage, etc. So these are the things that we focus on from SAPS level. And when it comes to court monitoring, we focus on the delays in cases as to why is there a delay. We look at the issue of the number of cases that they have had on the roll that specifically relates to gender-based violence. We look at a specific designated court for sexual offences matters. We look at facilities that are provided for witnesses of gender-based violence matters.
I'm particularly interested in this one, where you're talking about, victim-friendly rooms. What is this supposed to look like? And are there designated, for instance, police stations that can handle these type of cases? Looking at the fact that when you go to remote areas, you find that the police station is actually very small. In such cases, are they transferred to a police station that is more capable of handling?
Within the South African Police Services, there's a unit that specifically deals with gender-based violence crime, and that should be the FCS unit. Every police station should have an FCS unit, and linked to that FCS unit should be an official that is designated to deal with this type of matters.
Back to you. How the cases are captured. How do you ensure that the correct type of details are included in how the case is captured?
Yes, zezinye zengxaki that the Commission has noticed when it comes to investigating GBVF matters. Ezinye of the issues that we've been able to identify is that when a survivor goes and reports to the police station, the matter doesn't receive adequate attention, or it gets allocated to an official who does not have the necessary experience to deal with the matter. And then Londo, it leads to matter a court or to the prosecutors end up not enrolling it because there's information or evidence that is missing. So the only issues that we have identified as the Commission for Gender Equality.
Hey, lefatshe le senang CGE le boima bana beso. Ke ka ho ka jeno re iphile nako ya hore re tsebe hantle hore CGE ke bomang. Ska ba sutha ha re khutla mona re a teba re kena ditabeng. Titi ote. Welcome back to Gender Space. Lenaneo le shebana le tsohle tsa bong leo le tlisetswang ke nna Thwasa. Today we are looking at the CGE and their role in ensuring gender equality. Before the break, we learned how law enforcement and the courts are supposed to treat GBV cases. Jwale he, re kena ditabeng. One of the focal points tsa CGE ke hore they must make sure hore SAPS e ikobela molao ha mmoho le makgotla a dinyewe. Now the question is, what inspired the magnifying glass on these spaces?
Thank you. The truth is, Twasa, to be able to determine whether there is effective administration of justice and whether vulnerable groups are able to access justice, we must do court monitoring and SAPS oversight visits. That's what inspired our oversight visits and our court monitoring. Besides that, we received complaints directly from complainants, and some we picked up on our own accord.
When you go to these facilities, what happens? You walk in with a checklist. What happens?
We have a tool that we have, which is comprised of questions that we would ask the designated official. We then compile a report after our visit, and we make recommendations.
Commissioner, are the courts and stations, the police stations, compliant?
An honest answer, no.
What happens now? What happens? I mean, these are places where the community runs to when there's a problem. I mean, what happens when there is non-compliance?
Part of our oversight visits is to highlight these issues to the relevant authorities and make recommendations to them. My colleague touched on public education. And one of the issues that we find is that there's not adequate resources in the relevant departments for proper functioning of these units.
If I can just add to that, sorry.
You're welcome to.
Where we are able to identify issues, we do engage with the relevant stakeholders. For example, we've engaged with the NPA with regards to matters not being enrolled in court. We do engage with the respective provincial officers of the SAPS where we're able to identify issues with particular police stations.
Now, most of the things that you have mentioned, I understand, pertain to resources. You've also mentioned the issue of training. In as far as your recommendations are concerned, one would assume that at any given time, when a person meets an SAPS officer, you are expected to get help for whatever you're facing. Are we looking at a situation where maybe sometime in the future, this is the kind of training that will be given to everyone that is, for instance, in the SAPS, to be able to treat every victim or a person that is a witness with the same level of care?
I've already indicated to you that South African Police Services has a designated unit to fulfill this function. What South African Police Services need to do is that they need to adequately train that official in that unit to deal with that particular victim. What victims do not need is a process of continuously repeating what has happened to them. When you call onto a police station, there must be an officer that is trained to deal with the victim.
We would like to know, what are the repercussions for non-compliance, and what does the CGE do when there is non-compliance?
So when we monitor a particular station or a particular court, we always give feedback to the station commander. In the event that our recommendations are not being adhered to, we then invite the National Commissioner for Police to a hearing, a public hearing, where we air out our concerns and make further recommendations, wherein the police commissioner is then tasked with the responsibility of rolling out our recommendations nationally.
So tell us about the courts that you visited and what were your observations?
Okay, we do court monitoring in all provinces, but from our province, which is the Gauteng province, the issues that we have identified is the delay in proceedings. Also, the issue of matters not being enrolled. We had a particular matter wherein an elderly person was raped, but the matter was not brought before court. Upon our intervention, it was then reinstated before court. So issues like that regarding the investigation and the subsequent referral to the NPA, we are involved in those cases as well.
So when you find these shortcomings, what is the response when you give feedback to the particular stations or courts for that matter?
It's welcomed by the relevant entity, and there is compliance insofar as they would want to, they agree to the recommendations made, and they provide us with feedback that they will roll out the recommendations that we have provided to them.
Now, when we look at, you said we speak to the commissioner, these are welcome in a scenario where the feedback is not positively welcome. Are there any further steps beyond the recommendation that you take as the commission?
Yes, we can discuss our shortcomings with the department that we work closely with, which is the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability, in particular the Portfolio Committee. And from there on, there's relevant steps that can be taken from the Portfolio Committee to higher levels within government.
And in terms of direct engagement with the community, are there cases where a victim comes directly to the commission to say, I have been unfairly treated, or I have not been given a treatment that shows that my rights are being protected? And what has been the commission's response in such cases?
Yes, as previously mentioned, we do receive complaints directly from complainants, or we investigate matters on our own accord. We have had cases where complainants report directly to us that they have experienced issues either with the SAPS or with the NPA. We do intervene by communicating with the NPA and SAPS to find out what the issue is, and we assess our intervention based on the merits of each case.
It's good to know that there are repercussions when there is non-compliance. It's also good to know, it's comforting to know that the Commission of Gender Equality is there for us. Stay tuned, because we continue with this conversation after this break. TT. Gender Space, the talk show where we explore all things gender and its equality. I'm your host, Ketwasa. CGE, where they play a role in ensuring that our police and judicial system handle GBV cases appropriately. Takwano renale Commissioner Naidoo, hammoho le mme Nothemba Sonjica. Batlo re thusa hore re hlopholle taba ena. Before the break, we spoke about repercussions for non-compliance. It's a good thing that we also look at the other side, the success stories that you have observed. Tell us about that.
The Commission has had many success stories, Twasa, but into ebalulekile is that our recommendations have fostered change in terms of how these matters are investigated a police station nase court. Where we do intervene, we make sure that we make an impact. For example, we encourage change in the manner in which the SAPS investigates matters. We also encourage change with the NPA in the manner in which they peruse dockets and they make their decisions based on those dockets. So part of our success stories is that some matters which were withdrawn or not investigated are reinstated and they're given the attention they need.
I mean, this gives a lot of hope to somebody that is watching us right now. We've been talking about mandates, we talked about compliance and the monitoring of our police and courts. But what does this mean for the viewer at home who is disgruntled about maybe how their issue or their case has been handled?
We become the voice for the voiceless. If there's an issue that has not received the attention of a particular entity, for example, the South African Police Services, we encourage viewers to lodge a complaint with the CGE where this is gender-based violence related or gender inequality. Lodge a complaint, let the CGE become your voice.
What qualifies one to lodge a complaint with the CGE, and what is the typical lifespan of an inquiry? You've just stated now that if it is gender equality related, or if it has inequality related, or if it has to do with gender-based violence, that one must then lodge it with the commission. How long does the inquiry take? What is the lifespan? And are there other requirements to add on to what you have already indicated?
You cannot put a time frame on an inquiry. If we look at the processes within the South African Police Services and ultimately the prosecution of a matter, it's a lengthy process that can span sometimes 3 years and more. We will then monitor a particular matter and support an individual who has faced inequality based on gender, or if they have a matter that is related to gender-based violence and femicide that has not received the correct attention that it should have received.
Ms. Sonjica, ha re bua ka boemo bo e leng hore the victim is, as Mme has said, you can't put a time limit. What does the communication look like between the commission and the disgruntled party in the process? Because in as much as you can't, expedite the process, it must unfold as it should. How do you help me understand and keep track of what's happening regarding my complaint in my case?
As a complaint to us as a communicator now investigating officers of that particular case. We are part of the monitoring process until the matter is finalized. For example, if a matter is postponed in court, we're there. We find out why has it been postponed, what are the reasons, and what further investigations still need to be done. For example, if there's outstanding DNA, we find out, okay, what is causing the delay? When can DNA be available? If there's a statement that is missing, when can the statement be obtained? And then we go back to our complainants. Okay, this is the reason why this matter is postponed. These are the reasons that have been advanced. Because most of them abafundanga, aba-understanding, and ingxaki is that abachuchisi abacacisi. To postpone for further investigations. Further investigations by Antun. So what we are there for is to explain to them, okay, this is what's happening with your matter, and this is how we have intervened, where we can intervene.
Sure. As we part ways and as we come to the conclusion of our discussion today, if you had to talk about the awareness of victims regarding their rights, do you think we are there yet? Do you think that victims do understand their rights and do understand the access they have to the CGE?
We are not quite there yet, but the CGE is trying through our public education and information unit. We do outreach programs even to rural communities which do not have a reach or access to the media or access to the internet. We do physically go there for our educational awareness programs. So we are trying. We do have offices in all 9 provinces, and we do evaluate the needs of that actual province. Or how far can we go and how far can we assist in terms of our interventions?
Back to you, Commissioner Naidoo. The public, where can they find you? I hear that you're in all 9 provinces. Is there other access points that our viewers can use to access you?
We can be found on our website, the CGE website, where the complaints process is set out, where you can lodge your formal complaint via the internet, and it will then be received by our legal department, who will process the complaint and see if it's in line within our mandate, and feedback will be given to the relevant complainant.
It's been great hanging out with you today, and it's been quite an eye-opener. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Mamela, if you've been treated unfairly in the criminal justice system, you can lodge a complaint with the Commission by calling 0800 00 7709. Kajeno lena re ithutile dintho tse ngata ka CGE. Etsa bonnete ba hore o sebedisa sebaka sena ho hlahisa maikutlo a hao. Like I said, it's been an eye-opening episode for me, and I hope Luena ufumani thuto e nngwe hloka. Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of our show. Re tla nne re kopana hape hona teng kwano ho Gender Space and talk about all things gender. Lebitso la ka ke Thwasa. Ke sentse ke tshothle ke re morena wa kgotso a mpolokele wena. Goodbye.